Hey guys, this is the Ansible Guru here. My name is Luis. I recently created this channel in order to show you how easy Ansible can be used to automate network tasks. Now, this video, I just want to do a quick overview of Ansible, what it does, and what you can do with it. So, this is my lab. I have GNS3 running. Very easy to set up GNS3 if you want. I can make another video on how to set up GNS3 with VirtualBox and Ubuntu and how to get Ansible installed and everything. I have 3 Cisco devices here, all with IPs and SSH enabled. They're all ready. I'll show you my working directory. So, in order for Ansible to work, and before I explain, I want to explain what Ansible is. Ansible is a network automation tool. For those of you that don't know, it helps you automate networking tasks. Um, so if you're a network administrator or network engineer, Ansible is a very good tool to learn, especially since the whole industry is heading toward automation um, and SDN. Ansible has been by far the best out of Chef and Salt from what I've tried. Um, one of the best tools. So I want to show you how easy it can be. You don't have to know no programming or any Python. Um, it's very readable, very easy to understand, and I'll go through what you need to set it up. So once you get Ansible installed on the machine, you'll need a few things in a directory. In a directory, we should go ahead and create a Ansible config. Now the Ansible config is just basically a parameters for Ansible um, to tell it what it should do, what it shouldn't do, um, uh, the actual location of certain devices or files. So here in my Ansible config, I have the defaults. So the defaults is just basic default parameters. You tell it the inventory of where the host is going to be. I have it equal set to inventory, and here's the inventory directory. And then host key checking, this is for SSH. If you don't have, for example, one of these hosts within your SSH known list of hosts, it will just ignore it. It won't even check that. Retry file is enabled, so if Ansible were to fail, for example, it will create a failed task or playbook of what happened, so you can run that again and debug it and do stuff with it. Um, so I turned that off here. Now, um, when you have the Ansible config and you set out your parameters, next you should move on to creating an inventory directory. Within the inventory directory, you want to create a list of a file named hosts. So within this file, I have my list of hosts right here. You create a group by forming the brackets, and inside the brackets, you name the group name. It can be whatever you want. I named mine iOS for the Cisco devices. And here you can set a whole bunch of parameters. For example, I just included here the IP of each host. So for router 1 it's going to be 2, router 2 is going to be .3, and so on. When Ansible executes, it will go in the inventory, it will go in the host file to pull what devices it will send over the commands to. Now you also might have noticed that I have a group variables file, or not file, but directory, and a host vars directory. Now, best practices in Ansible is to have these two, hosts, host vars, and group vars. So host vars, as the name suggests, is variables that only apply to individual hosts. Group vars are variables that applies to all the hosts. Within group vars, I created an all directory. Now in all directory, whatever I put in here will apply to all of these in iOS. And if I have, for example, like another device vendor, let's say Junos, it will apply to Junos as well. Basically everything within the host files, within the host file will apply here. So let's take a look at that file. So here Ansible takes in the .yaml format. Now the .yaml is a very easy to read um, programming, uh, not really a language. It's just a format, a programming format for you feed it into Ansible and Ansible uh, reads it off. So for YAML, you always have to start with the 3 lines here and end it with the 3 periods. You don't have to. You don't have to end it with the 3 periods, but I do, just to keep it cleaner. Now within this Ansible connection vars, I named it Ansible connection vars because it's easier to read. It tells you what it is. It's within all, so you know it's going to apply to everything. Um, Within the file, you see the Ansible connection is going to use network CLI. Now for network CLI, what network CLI is, it's basically a Python module that Ansible will use in order to connect to these 3 devices. Um, this Python module, you don't have to go into it, don't have to do anything with it, just specify it. Make sure that Ansible connection is set to network CLI, because within that network CLI is the Python module. What it does is it parses outputs and inputs. So basically it tells you if the command went through, if it got an error. It just has the logic built into it for the network device. Here you specify the user, the password for the user, the OS that these hosts are going to be using or have, and then Ansible will be only for specific network devices. For example, Cisco, you have to enable before you get into configurational mode. We're telling it here, yes, we need to enable, and then the command enable and the password is going to be Ansible, same as the SSH password. Now, for the most basic Ansible setup, this is it right here. An Ansible config, an inventory. Um, you don't even have to have the group variables or the host variables. You can all have it within hosts, and within the hosts, instead of specifying all of this in here, you can specify it here in the host. For example, you after R1, you do the space, you put Ansible host. Then after Ansible host, you can do 2 spaces, and you can put this and 2 spaces, put that, right? It can all be within the host, but for best practices, this is the easiest way to do it because this will apply to everything. Um, it's just easier, cleaner to do. Now, I'll show you a very quick um, Ansible playbook here that I'll run. So here we have the show cdp neighbors.yaml playbook. And the playbook here, what it does, since it's a .yaml, you start with the 3 lines. This very top section right here is just explaining the playbook, specifying the host and other parameters. So the name of the playbook is just show CDP neighbors. The host is going to be the group iOS, right? Or you can do router 1, router 2, router 3, or you can do router 1 through 2, or however many you want. I just do the group, so it applies to all of them. Gather facts, no. Now you don't have to put the gather facts, no, but it's always a best practice to do so because Ansible originally wasn't made for networking devices. It was made for servers. So if this is set to yes, what Ansible used to do, if it's done for a server, is it goes to the server, it pulls all kinds of information from OS, users, just everything from the server. It doesn't really do this with the networking devices. If you were to set this to yes or not even put it here at all, it will gather the facts, but it really doesn't do anything. Um, from what I've seen in the debugging, I don't see that it does anything. Now, connection local. In the older Ansible versions, the connection local had to be mandatory because, again, Ansible used to be used with servers, and what it did was it created a script and files and all that, and it pushed it out to the server, and it executed it on the server. You can't really do that with networking devices. So what it does is it keeps it all local on your host machine, and then it pushes over just commands over SSH to the networking device. Uh, so now you can have connection local, it really doesn't matter, but if you just want it as simple as possible, if you are running a latest version of Ansible, you don't have to keep the connection local. You can just take it off and I'll do it by default. Now, for tasks, this goes after you specify the name of the playbook and the host that it'll execute on. Task is just what the playbook is essentially going to do. So, after tasks, you do name, and you basically name your first task. We're going to be using an iOS command, and this is another Python module like Network CLI, except that the iOS command will help you execute um, certain commands on the devices, and then you'll get the output back. Uh, and you can go over to Ansible's website. You can type in iOS command, Ansible network module, and you'll see all the parameters that you can use with this iOS command and what you can't do. Because there's hundreds and hundreds of network modules on the Ansible website. There's iOS facts, iOS config, and later on I'll be showing more and more examples, and I'll also make it more and more complex. So just to show you guys what you can actually achieve with Ansible. So here in the commands, we'll be running just one command, show CDP neighbors, and then we're going to register that output of the command to neighbors. Now, you can't really see the output until you create another task telling you to show you the output. So we name the task display output. I use the debug module, um, use the var parameter, and you specify neighbors. Now, this period and then standard outlines is what you will receive from this iOS command. So when you go to Ansible and you search up this iOS command, it'll at the very bottom it'll show you what you can expect to receive. So and in that website it tells you you expect to receive a dot standard out lines. So you put it in front of whatever register you put it on. So right here is neighbors and then dot standard out. And this would be a great playbook to troubleshoot. For example, you have somebody that doesn't really know any networking, but you need to see if all the adjacency are up in your network, or if you just want to troubleshoot yourself, and you want to make it quick on multiple devices, you will just run this playbook and you get the output, and you'll see if your network is operating correctly or not. So, in order to run this playbook, what I like to do before anything is check to see if Ansible can even connect to these devices. So you can do a very simple ad hoc command here. You do sudo to run it as root. You do Ansible. You specify the hosts or group. Um, then you do a -m for module. We're going to use the ping module. The ping module is very simple. Doesn't really ping. Instead, what it does is it SSHs into the device and comes back out, and it'll return an OK or an error. It'll just tell you if it can even SSH to the devices, and if it can, um, then you know Ansible works. And if it doesn't, it'll tell you the error authentication, or it could be something else. So here we see that it was successful for all of them. So now, in order to run the playbook, instead of just running Ansible by itself, you would do Ansible-playbook, specify that you will give it a playbook in order to execute. We do show cdp neighbors.yaml, and here you can apply if you want to debug or other parameters you can specify here. For example, verbosity here offers you the option of showing like a debug output, but we'll just do a simple right here. And here you can see the name of the play, what we named it, show CDP neighbors, Since I didn't specify the gather task, no, it'll perform it, but it really doesn't do anything, like I said. Then the task, if we go up here, run command, it shows you that it did run the command exactly. So if we didn't have the display output, you wouldn't see what this did or what was the output of it. Instead, that's why we create another task telling it, hey, I want to register it, then show me the output. And we see here, it was okay for all three of them. Routed one, and here we can see the exact variable that it used. You can see where they're all connected, the host name, the interface, what it is, a router, platform. Um, and then the play recap is just to show you if it changed, uh, was it okay, unreachable, or failed. So for this one, everything was okay. Um, that's about it. I just wanted to create a very simple overview of Ansible and what it can do. I'll be creating more videos. I'm working on a course, an entire course where I'll take you from start to finish on installing GNS3, Ansible, and I'll give you, I'll, I'd say probably around 10 to 15 playbooks, very advanced playbooks that you can do to see uh, or to show you how easy it is to run Ansible and just very simple and very powerful too. I mean, you think of this using hundreds of devices and it scales very well. In the description, I'll leave my contact, my Facebook group, Twitter. They're all very recently created. I just want this to focus on Ansible, network automation, Python, if I have the time. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to contact me. Like I said, I'll probably, if I get any requests, I'll do how to install GNS3, how to install Ansible. But yeah, thank you for watching.